Hello? Or maybe we're live? I can't tell. Bluetooth decided not to work. Monitoring in OBS decided not to work. My phone decided not to work. So I'm using my laptop microphone, which is not really very good. Hello, Russell. Yeah, apologies for my voice quality. Can you hear my voice and a bleep? Hello, Skinny Chad. Hello, Informative. Yeah, it's maybe not the best name. Looks great. Question is, can you hear me? Oh, wow, the lag is crazy. Yeah, this is going to be a dodgy stream. Informative. I'm sorry about the setup. I can't monitor, so I can't hear what you can hear. Because my computer's rubbish. So basically, I can sort of see some VU meters in OBS and double check again. Yeah, maybe I'll make it a bit louder with the enloudinate button. Okay, that's not bad. Thanks, Skinny Chad. I think I'm going to start. I was originally just going to do this as a recording. I'm not sure if I'm regretting doing it as a live stream now. I'll probably ignore you a bit. It's not going to be long. I just wanted to go through the features of Plinky because I've been tweeting about it for a year, and it's been a year of sort of hobby project tinkering, and I've finally in the last month forced myself to finish the software as best I can. It's still got some bugs and some clicks have crept in, so with all the usual caveats, I'm just going to sort of dive into some basic sound demos maybe. I guess I'll give you some sort of lay of the land. So Plinky is, what is it? It's a little desktop synth. Here I've got it in a little 3D printed enclosure that I made, 24 HP eurorack format, so it will fit into a eurorack as well. In fact, I've got one here, so it's 2 PCBs. Again, I can't see what I'm doing, so hang on a second. That's better. So I can see what I'm doing now. So here's a version where I haven't soldered the LEDs on so that I can take the top off. I'll go through the hardware maybe a bit later, but I'm going to focus on the musical aspects. And here's one where I've put the LEDs on. And as I say, it works standalone. This is being powered off USB at the moment. I'll show you on the bottom here. You've basically got a line in and headphone out stereo line level, and then you've got USB-C on this version. I might go back to USB-B micro, but I'm not sure. And then I've got eurorack power, which you don't need to use. On this prototype, actually, the outputs require eurorack power to work. The inputs always work. But I've got a revision coming up with a boost converter so that you can even use the nice hot eurorack outputs, even powered off USB. But this particular revision doesn't do that. But I promised myself I wouldn't make any more hardware until the software was done, which it now is. So I can get myself some new PCBs. Okay. So you've got a bunch of eurorack inputs, which you can ignore, and a bunch of eurorack outputs, which you can ignore for now. Across the bottom, you've got tape transport, play, record, clear, and you've got. Why can't I see what I'm doing anymore? Yeah, so you've got the sort of step, previous and next buttons. You've got presets, and then you've got the 2 settings buttons, which I'll explain in a minute. And the rest you can ignore because straight out of the box this is just an init patch. It's just sawtooth. Every single button in the 64 grid just plays notes. And it's don't think of it like a piano. Plinky is melancholy in a box. It's a little synthesizer for making sad, ambient, melancholic stuff that I like. I made it for myself. And basically, it's 8 strings. And the thing that makes it special is that each of those sort of strings is like a monosynth voice. So I've got it set to quantize, but it's completely analog. It's a completely analog up and down sensor. And in fact, it's a very old school and retro way of doing it. It's just two triangular pieces of metal. So it's really kind of fragile and a little bit rubbish, but in a good way. So like the sound of it is digital, but it's actually driven by this very sensitive and slightly flaky, in a good way, in my opinion, synth. So you've got one string, second string, a fifth up, because I'm a cellist, another string, another string. So you've got your 8 strings. And that just pervades the whole thing. So that gives you your polyphony, so you can do 2 fingers at a time. It has a sequencer, it has an arpeggiator. I'll just load up some I can't remember which preset is which. So I just push the preset button, and now I basically have 32 presets on the left side, 24 sequencer patterns in the middle, and 8 samples on the right for the sampler, which I'll get to later on. Okay, let's try patch number 3. Okay. This is another classic. Let's see what I've got. Oh, that's sensitivity, okay. Let's see if I can turn it up a bit. So it's kind of, it's got built-in reverb and delay, which you can turn down, but I never do. Got a CS80 sort of vibe almost. And as I say, it's really sensitive, so if I turn the sensitivity down a bit. So each string is either a sampler, or in this case, 4 sawtooth waves stacked, and they're detuned by the actual imperfections in your fingers. So basically, the analogness is coming directly into the kind of detuning of the 4 sawtooths. So you get this kind of, and then there's a low pass gate. So it's not a volume gate. It's a low pass gate, and I'm affecting the sensitivity here. So, but as I change my finger position, you get different. I can change the balance between the low by using pressure. So it's a very sort of sensitive and lovely thing to play, and you can switch on an arpeggiator. Let's put the headphones on. That's just one finger. I've got a latch as well. Let's put the latch on. Alright, let's switch that off. Try a different patch. What's this one? Oh, this is Granulated. Eesh. Ooh dear. So that's just a piano sample that I clearly don't know very well. It's got loud bits and very quiet bits. What else have I got? You can do sort of granulation of sounds. I'll show the sampler in a bit maybe. What's this one? Oh, this is just my Yamaha upright that I quickly recorded. Basically, you can sample into it. It's got 16 megs of RAM, split into 8 samples. It's like 30 seconds each, I think. So I recorded 8 notes on my piano, and then you can tell it what the pitches are, and it will. It's really sort of. It's not really a piano, it's sort of. Sometimes you get those little twitches when my fingers fall between. I'm going to look at the chat. Yeah, I'm assuming you can all hear what I'm doing. I'm going to keep going with the demo. So yeah, I've only had this working for a day, so I'm a beginner at this as well. In this one I've set the arpeggiator to be random, so I'm holding down a note and it will repeat it, but not too much. 2 notes. And so on like that. Okay, I'll do one more patch and then we'll build one together so I can show you all those parameters and stuff. This one can get loud, I think. Let's see if I remember. Let's turn that one down. So, yeah, nice dynamic range on this one. I love this one. I stumbled on it last night. Yeah, so on. Needs more cowbell. Okay, let's talk about what's going on. Sorry about the camera shape, by the way. I don't have a camera stand, so my iPhone is filming this, which is hanging by gorilla legs from a monitor. It's quite funny. Okay, how do you build a patch? And we'll do a sample later as well. So basically there are a bunch of parameters, and the idea of it is, although there's menu diving, there's very little menu diving, there's very little state. There's basically A parameters and B parameters, which you just select by pushing these buttons. And you can also, you can use them as toggles if you want to do it as one finger at a time, or you can actually hold down and use it like a shift. So you can actually do it pretty fluidly while you're performing. And then presets, everything is stored. I won't cover this again, but you see me switching presets. Basically, the left half is labeled presets. So these are 32 presets that you can just pick between. So if I pick like a relatively blank one, and then hold down the reset button, it will wipe it. So it should just be a sawtooth, yeah. And then the highlighted region is the 24 patterns. So they're separate from the presets, and the 24 patterns are each 64 steps each, and you can set up a loop within the 64. So you could set up like 8-step sequences and have 8 of them, and then you can jump around between them, which is quite nice. And you can well, I'll get to that. So just to describe there is meaning in the chaos. So basically it's arranged as sort of 7 categories. At the top there's an arpeggiator and a latch, which aren't really like the others because they're just sort of toggles. But there are these 7 rows of parameters, and they actually correlate with the inputs. So this is the audio input, and that sort of correlates with the sort of sampler type setup. You've got the clock input, that correlates with the arpeggiator and sequencer. You've got the gate input, which basically gates the performance. So you can record a performance in, and then basically the gate will fade that performance in and out analogically. And so you've got it opens the gates up and down, so it opens the low-pass gates. And that correlates to the sensitivity, overdrive, and ADSR envelope. Then you've got pitch, and that correlates to octave, scale, glide, interval, gate length. Okay, that's not really pitch, but it fits. And then you've got these 4 general purpose modulation sources called A, B, X, and Y. There's no particular reason I called them A, B. I could have called them Bob, Fred, Jill, and Barbara, but I called them A, B, X, and Y. And A and B are special also because they have offset knobs. So basically, even if you don't have eurorack connected here, you can still make A and B wobble around. And the exciting thing is that those 4 modulation inputs are completely modulatable to every single parameter. So basically, you can have all the parameters morphed, if you like, by A and B and X and Y. So at very least, you get 2D performance spaces, which you probably saw me doing with some of my patches. And I'll demo that in a moment, but I'm giving you the lay of the land. And then outputs-wise, which I'm not going to cover today, but you've got stereo audio output with the normaled into mono. You've got pressure output, which is like how hard you're pressing your fingers to analog gate, useful for like paralleling to plinky or using plinky as a sequencer or touch surface to drive another synthesizer. Pitch low is always the lowest note that you're playing, regardless of any arpeggiation or chords or stuff. So that's like your pedal note if you wanted to drive that bass synth with it. Gate is basically follows the envelope of plinky. So if it's going ding, digga, ding, digga, ding, digga, ding, you get that out of the gate, including analog waveform, analog gateness. Pitch high is basically the highest note that's playing, and that one does respect the arpeggiator. So while the pitch low goes boo and will drone on the pedal, pitch high follows the top note, and then you have a trigger out, which is also useful if you don't want a gate. So you've basically got analog gate and then a pulse trigger, and then you've got clock out because it can clock itself. Okay, I'm just going to have a quick look at the chat to see if I've still managing to stream. Yes, I am. Okay, let's do some. So there's a sawtooth. And I should say that the A and B sliders, just to make things even more awesome, is that all the parameters, there's 2 sets of them, and most of the time it kind of, the same button makes sense twice. So I should say, for example, that, I'll give you a good example. I'll just demo it later. Let's just stop talking. So the most obvious thing, delay send. So I just, I wonder if I can zoom my camera in a bit. Let me just zoom in. Ugh, it's a bit too close. See if you can, I don't know. Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, you can't see the bottom row, so I might zoom back out again. But basically, I would like to be able to see the whole thing. Oh, computers. Okay, zoom out a tiny bit more, There we go. Okay, that's a bit better. There we go, that's about as good as I can get it. So yeah, I go into parameters, and I could just push effects, and it's immediately delay send. And the left side is the slider, so I can just change the delay send. And these 4 buttons at the top are always available to play. And even more fun, I can just actually directly go to the slider and just push my finger up and down from there. So the really cool thing is that it's really fast to edit these parameters, although they're all right in front of you all the time. So quite quickly, although I've just rearranged them for myself to confuse my muscle memory, it's really quick to edit. So yeah, let's just do more delay. So that's turned down now. If I turn it back up, and when I tap this again, now I have all of the buttons, but the left slider remains, which is why the light's still lit. So I can change the slide, or I can be, you know, modifying the delay send. What, I don't know why I'd want to do that, but let's do a different one. So if I go to attack, let's say, longer attack, and again I can come out of that, so I've still got attack down the left side, longer or fast attack. Okay, let's turn the sustain down. So sustain, please. Turn the sustain down. Super fast attack. Let's turn the attack up a bit. Then you've got decay and everything else. Right. You've also got a second envelope, which is actually just these two sliders here, where you basically, it's an attack decay, but you can fiddle with it. So I normally use that for noise. So I can introduce you to the modulation. So I've got noise down here. It's on B. So this bottom button here is noise. So if I just turn it up, it's underneath the ADSR gate. Not particularly useful, maybe a little bit. But what's more fun is if you instead of just having it up, you go to this modulation source, which is the envelope, the sort of secondary envelope, and I'll say, right, I only want noise driven by the secondary envelope. So now I get a little snap. If I apply that to pitch, actually, let's just apply that to pitch. So now the envelope is like pulsing, and I could change the envelope rate. Hang on, let me go. So envelope rate, fast, slow, even slower. What a horrible patch, but you get the idea. I might init this patch again actually, because it just sounds gross. Okay, the perils of live demoing. Alright, so back to a simple patch. Let's put some reverb on because everybody needs reverb. So yeah, reverb is moved around. Effects, reverb send up because it's plinky. So modulation is super amazing. You've seen the envelope, which is probably the least interesting one. And one I really like is, let's take octave for example. So if I go here and I go octave, 0. So far so boring. But if I go to this random modulation source, every single parameter for every single finger has its own sample and hold. So I could turn up, and if you go positive on the amount of modulation from random, you get unipolar. If you go negative, you get bipolar. So let's go bipolar. So we're going to dial in. So that's like random octave dialed in, just like that. And while we're doing pitch, let's do the other modulation sources. So if I go to scale, pitch, and choose the A modulation source, turn that up, maybe 50%. And if I had a CV plugged in here, that would drive that. But and there's, by the way, there's other modulation sources. So basically, here's a good example of the A versus B. So A is pitch. This little keyboard is pitch, which is modular style pitch. But if I turn that modulation down again, and I go to B, the B thing here is scale, major scale, and actually the octave turns into rotate, which basically is rotate. So rotates the scale notes. So I can, so basically you can change the. So you could do, let's stick some random on that. So let's go to random, and we'll just say plus 1.5, bit more. So it's choosing random notes in the scale because I chose to add the randomness to the scale rotate parameter. And again, you could be driving that from CV, or you could be driving it from knob, or all of them. Like it's a modulation matrix, so every single parameter can have any amount of all of these modulation sources. And lastly, that's basically it. That's Plinky in a nutshell. But I'm just going to carry on. Our interval's really cool. I've got to show you interval. So there are 4 sawtooth oscillators for each string. 2 hard left, 2 hard right. And they're also tuned an interval apart. There's microtonal elements from your fingers, but let's do... Oh, it supports microtonal scales as well. Whatever. So I'm not very good at demoing and thinking at the same time, sorry. So there's pitch. Let's do interval. So if I go to interval, which is all being moved around again, interval, and I go to the amount. Okay, so I've got a fifth now. And again, I could randomize that. So now I've got fifths, and that works in the sampler as well, which is really nice. So you've basically got 8 times 4 oscillators, those 2 oscillators. There's plenty of room for that sort of polyphony. You've got a resonance as well, but it's on the low pass gate, which is pretty weird. So basically, if I turn the sensitivity down, let's go to sensitivity, turn it down. Basically, low sensitivity, you're going to get like the gate closing, so it's only a sine wave really. Okay, let's go back to the scope display. It's really quiet, but there's a drive unit, right? So I can go to drive, and I can turn it up. Compensate for the fact that the gate's barely open. But then if I open up that gate again, oh, it's going to get gnarly. You heard that a little bit before. So yeah, so I go back to sensitivity. And the distortion is intentionally after the polyphony, so you get like guitar-like tones, like intermodulation distortion. Wow, gnarly with the fifth on there as well. What else is there? Arpeggiator. I'm going to go back to a different patch because that one's just too messed up. Okay, actually I was going to check the chat. Have they lost me? Seems to be going. Okay, so no one's complaining. Oh, playing the Arpeggiator feels so nice. I'll tell you why, because it's not like it's polyphonic aftertouch, and you can kind of modulate your fingers. It just feels really nice. I think I've mapped B to sensitivity here. All right, the ARP's doing multiple octaves there. Let's look at our ARP options. We've basically got the ARP mode, so up. Oh, hang on. I know, let's turn the octaves down. So the ARP octaves are over here. Whack them down, back down to 1 octave. Pretty boring. I know, let's switch the latch on so that I don't have to hold it down. Okay, so hopefully you can hear me over it, but let's try some different ARP options. Okay. Down. Actually, I've done such a spread chord. Let me do a less spread chord. That's down. Up and down. Bach style. Rand's fun. Rand 2, that's basically 2 notes at random. Chord just plays all of them. Up 8 steps is cool. Let me turn down the reverb. Reverb. Oh, I've got a bit of delay on there as well. The delay is cool, it's all beat synced and you can do different things with it. I'm not going to do all of the features, let's just turn down the delay. Okay, so the cool thing about ARP 8-step mode is that it's actually wiping across the whole keyboard, and it's including rests. So you get this like rhythm that depends on the position of your fingers. Pretty weird. Pretty cool as well. Let's go back to something. Let's go random. So, other arpeggiator options. You've got the division of the clock. So this is in 30 seconds. 3. So basically it's a clock divider all the way up to... Oh. Sod off latch. It generates a 30-second clock from a 16th clock. So if you feed it a 16th clock, even in a regular one, it will try and guess where the 30 seconds are. Okay, it's pretty funky. You've also got probability. So basically, I can say like, this is 100%. And you'll notice it's a Euclidean rhythm. That's set by the next thing is 8-step Euclidean, or you can do longer. Or if you go all the way down to 0 length Euclidean, you just get random. That's pretty cool. What did I leave the probability at? Quite low, 64%. That's all right. So it kind of breaks up the rhythm of it. And the sequencer has all of the exact same options. So basically the A thing for this row is Arpeggiator, and the B thing is the step sequencer. Should we record something in? Let's record something in. So basically I can step backwards and forwards with this this thing here, and I can choose where my start and end points are. So I can say my loop is these 8 steps, or I can say these 8 steps. And if I'm playing, it will actually schedule it and only switch on the next... there's some glitching there. Need to fix that. So you've got, let's record into these 8 steps. Switch record on, and each time I release it, alright, that'll do. So in theory, if I hit play, it's going really fast. Okay, let's slow that down. Sequencer, divide. Well, I'm not a musician. Thank you very much, Plinky. So yeah, you've got a step sequencer. You can also record in real time. So if you hit record while time's running, it will record. And it actually records at like 16 times faster than the steps. So although it's 64 steps, it will actually try to capture the nuance of your fingers. Okay, let's wrap up with a sampler demo, for which I need to borrow my girlfriend's phone. I forgot to borrow. So I shall go and grab an iPhone and demo sampling from an iPhone. Okay, I have an iPhone. Let's go to YouTube. And I'm going to look up Mylar Melodies YouTube, because I think that'd be funny. What should we go for? Any favourite Mylar Melodies? IntelliGel Metropolis eurorack sequencer demo. That's a classic. Yes, and the ads before it. Right. So the cool thing is, hang on, Plinky has audio in, right? Either at eurorack level down here, or ta-da! Don't think about how many times it's going back and forth between analog and digital. Skip ads. Oh, now I can't hear it. But basically, this is now playing the classic Mylar Melodies In fact, I can demo this. Oh, well, it's actually not fully debugged, but let's find out if it works. So the B category for the volume is a mixer. So basically you've got the synth, but you've also got input. Input. If I turn it up, oh, brilliant, it works. So that's going through plinky. And I think in theory I can send it through the reverb as well. So, oh, I turned the reverb down, didn't I? Never turned down the reverb.
So, where did this come from? So I asked him. When I was a kid, I had a Saturday.
Oh, so good. Okay, let's turn that down again. Right, what am I going to do with this? I'm going to record Mr. Melodies. So I go here and I say, like, okay, I'll take sample 5. There is nothing in sample 5. So I shall hit record. Or I have to hold it down. Record, it has to erase. Sorry, Flash is a bit slow. I tried doing this while it was recording and I kept getting glitches, so I basically just moved the erase up front, which is something I'm going to try and work on in future hardware revision, but basically it wipes the flash RAM first. Okay.
106 from a neighbour. I built a few magazine synth projects and spent a lot of time.
So you get like a little, this is just setting the level.
Catalogue featuring a System 100.
So you can't see the screen, but this is basically saying, please help me set the rec level, and you can do it with a, you can do it with
I
a.
could never afford these things when I was a kid.
Oh, that'll do.
Years later, as an
Okay,
adult,
let's
I
hit record.
finally bought an old Roland 100.
I'm going to rewind the video to the beginning, and I'm going to hit record. Boop. It says armed, it's waiting for some audio.
Hello. This is the IntelliGel Metropolis. Years ago on general internet travels for badass synth shit on YouTube, I came across this video. So we'll just take this in for a sec, shall we? This seems to show a new type of sequencer, or an old sequencer for the System 100M. The guy seems to be adjusting these switches. I don't know what he's doing. All I know is it sounds completely badass and electro.
That's enough of that. Thank you, Mr. Melodies. He's a great YouTuber if you don't follow him. Right, so now we've got it in.
Hello, 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 hello.
There. I don't know why it's retwigging. It's not meant to be retwigging, but it is. Oh, it's because I've got the Arpeggiator on. Ha. Lol, bugs. Well, not really bugs, but just annoying workflow thing. Switch the Arpeggiator off. Go back to here. Hold down edit sample. We're back.
Hello.
That's better.
Hello. Hello.
So,
Hello.
the cool thing is, it's mapped the sample, right, into across all the pads. So,
Hello.
I mean, he says hello and then goes quiet. And you can actually set the start point for each of the 8. So if I rewind, I'm going to put that one there. Oh, let's go to IntelliGel. There. Or whatever, you get the idea. And so basically that's it, that's sampling on Plinky. And then you get all sorts of fun ways to chop that up and mess with it. So, I think I've got quite a long attack on there actually. Let's just change the attack. Attack is 26, right? No attack, please.
Hello.
And again, it's 8-voice polyphony, so you can do stupid stuff like that. And you've also got a bunch of parameters around scrubbing, time stretching, rate's fun, so obvious stuff, time stretch, grain size, let's have a little play on that. As I scrub my finger down, I'm actually scrubbing through the sample. So actually let's set the time stretch to completely nothing, 0. Yeah, so that's the granular sampler. Oh, and last thing, let's go back to one of the other samples. So I think, was it this one was the piano? I can't remember. Nope. Let's try sample 2. That was the piano. Sample 1, what have we got on sample 1? Or sample 3 maybe? I like sample 3. Ah, drum loop. Yeah, I'm not going to finger drum for you. Maybe it's sample 1 then. Oh yeah, this is my piano. Right, so if we edit that, you can see what I did. Basically, it's got eight slices. And as you can see in the corner, but there's a pitch for each one, so I can basically tell it. And you can set looping modes. This is set to loop slice, but you can cycle through by hitting a little button down here. You can't quite see, but there's options. Basically, it's a sampler, but all of the stuff from Plinky works before. So the really cool thing is that let's go back out, give it a bit of release. So all the envelopes, all the noise generation, everything just works the same. So okay, so there's my piano. I'll turn the decay up as well. Okay, it's nice. So there's my piano. But I can, for example, interval. I did it in fifths before. Let's do it in fifths again. 7, yeah. And all the modulation works. So let's go to random scale rotation. We'll go to random, and we'll just turn it up. Yeah, so now pressing the same key, it's impossible to play because... Anyway, that's Plinky. It's really fun to play when you're not making just bad patches live on air. Go back to the wild one that I love. I think it was patch 1. Boink. Yeah, switch off the Arpeggiator. No Arpeggiator, go away. Yeah, Plinky is a little synth. I'll wrap up with any questions anyone has on the stream. Talk about the hardware very briefly. It's PCB on the front. Now, you have to basically solder on LEDs, but it's really easy because the hole holds them in, so you plop them in the hole and then just touch the solder on. I got the main board, which is this is a 2-layer version. The next version has a boost converter and 4 layers. Very similar to my STM streams, if you haven't seen them. There's a big fat STM L476, which is the fastest one they have. I think it's 80 megahertz, which is really rubbish and slow. That does cap touch. So yeah, the front board is basically 18 channels of capacitive touch in as vertical strips. In fact, you can probably just see them in the light. No, you can't. And then a matrix of 5x4 by 2-way LEDs. And then, yeah, the CPU basically does everything. It even drives the LEDs, and then a bunch of analog stuff. I've got hiccups. It's emotional. Yeah, so if this was ever to be a kit, because I don't know much about assembling whole modules, but if this were ever a kit, then it's about 20 quid's worth of stuff on here probably, plus all the hardware. So I don't know what the hardware is. It depends on what Steve from Donk feels like giving me a discount or not. But basically, yeah, you'd solder on 16 jacks, pretty easy. Solder on these headers, the 2 pots, a little eBay, or I got this one off Amazon actually for 3 quid, a little screen. And the next revision is going to have switchcraft rather than barrel jack, and probably micro B, just because I like changing things, and a little boost converter so that you don't have to use Euro power to drive the outputs, because at the moment they need plus minus 12 volts to drive the op amps, but I'm going to fix that. So yeah, it's Plinky. It's very simple, and as I say, it's not cheap bill of materials wise, but it's not insane. It's like 20 quid plus hardware. I think for 5 of these in quantity of 5, which is with no volume discount, this board cost about 150 quid for 5 delivered with the PCB and the manufacturing and everything. So basically I can get 5 of these delivered from China, pre-assembled for 150 over 5, 30 quid each. And I guess if you made more, then it would be less. But it's I don't know whether or not I want to turn it into a product because it's quite esoteric, as you've just seen, and it's not a clean thing. It's about fragility and melancholiness and in a hardware box. But I hope you like the demo, and slot these two on top, and 3D print a little case for it, and sadness emerges. Right, any questions? Let's ask the chat. So the lag is long enough that I shall just sit here like a lemon for a few moments, and if no one has any questions, then I shall call it a day. Size-wise, it is about the size of a double CD for people as old as me. It's basically 5 inches by 5 inches by 10 millimeters thick. So it's slightly thicker than a CD, but it's exactly the size of a CD. Fitting it onto 80 megahertz was rough. It's actually, at the moment, it's overclocked to 88, I think, but it can be squished down to 80. But getting the SPI bus fast enough, because you have to divide by at least 2 or 4, I think. So basically you end up with 11 megahertz for the SPI bus, which is only just enough to get 32 channels of audio out of a little SPI flash chip. I'd love to know where to start looking to do something like this. I do program for a living, but don't remember much hardware stuff. Have a look at my YouTube channel. There's very little on it, but I did a bunch of live streams at the beginning of lockdown about exactly that, which is basically using STM32 chips. The original Plinky was done on a Teensy, which is a 240 megahertz Teensy 3.6, and it took me a year to basically rebuild it as I wanted it, with all of the in my spare time while making dreams. I wanted to do it myself from bare chips rather than using a module. But I think Teensy was a good place to start. So if you haven't built any hardware before, I'd recommend Teensy's like a good Arduino. Arduino's very weak CPU wise. I want to revisit the audio, the reverb again, actually, because the reverb on the original Plinky demo was much lusher, but it was running on a faster Teensy. So I stripped it down to fit it into 80 megahertz, and I've now learned a bit more about ARM optimization as a side effect of squeezing this thing into 80 megahertz. So I might have another go at beefing up the reverb. Well, that's Plinky. I don't know what to do with it, really. I've got, well, minus LEDs. I've obviously got 2 here. I have enough to make 5 if I order some more LEDs. So I might send a couple. I don't know if Mr. Melodies gets a tax for having used his sample on the video. And thanks to everyone who helped me out on Twitter. Basically, I've learned a lot of my electronics from people like LPZW Modules, Eric Bombau, lots of people, but those 2 especially I've hassled a lot, and Scholar as well. We've been going on an STM journey together. So thank you to everyone on Twitter who helped me out with hardware questions, got me to this point. And now I have to figure out what to do with it. Maybe some of those people who helped me out get the early Plinkies, and then we'll see what happens from there. It's all C, so everything is C. I've written there's a couple of intrinsics. Like I use the dual 16-bit multiplies and the saturate 16-bit instructions, which are just done as intrinsics from GCC. But it's written in a very, very terse C style. I don't know how to capture my desktop in OBS. I probably can. Let's have a look. Desktop. Turn it into a quick coding stream. Display capture. Wow. Wild. Okay. And you can still hear me. Can you still hear me? I think you can still hear me. Let's go and look at Arpeggio, shall we? I don't know how to make the font big in this. It's loading very slowly. VCV rack is very cool. I mean, it's VCV rack. I think is more about having a taste of modular without having to spend lots of money. Wow, SGM Play 2 is taking a long time. The power of Java. Right, behold the filth. So Reverb, someone was asking about. I think that's just in plinky.c. And oh my god, this is so slow. It's seriously. Oh, there you go, Reverb 2. So this function does one sample of reverb, and it gets inlined. So I actually wrote a Twitter rant and a GitHub gist about this, but basically it's using the Lfos founders technique of a rolling buffer. So basically this defined here is a all-pass filter. This is an all-pass filter with a wobbling tap. This is a straight delay, and this is a delay with a wobbling tap. And then basically it's just written as a series of what would amount to single instructions on the spin semi FE1. So you do an all pass of 140 samples, then you throw in a bit of the input, then you do an all pass of 107 samples, blah, blah, blah. And then you throw in a bit of shimmer, and then you stick a low pass filter in, and then you send it back round. And that's it. So it's written in a very kind of, that's the whole Reverb in the page of code. And because it's a hobby project, it's very, very, very minimalistic. So, for example, the synth, the entire synth is this page of code. So this is the polyblep band-limited sawtooth filter. This is 132 times, followed by a low-pass gate. So you've got sawtooth filter right there, those two lines. You've got polyblep for band limiting. It does like smooth interpolation of the phase, so you get glissandi. Oh, it does two. Sorry, I've unrolled this by hand. So basically you've got sawtooth 1, sawtooth 2. They then get compiled together, and then they go through a 2-pole 24 dB per octave low-pass gate at the end. So like the heart of Plinky is a page of code. Anyway, yeah, I think I've probably gone into enough technical detail for a lifetime. Plinky, it is a thing. The modulation is really cool, actually. I'm going to switch back to the... no. Oh. That one. The modulation is the most exciting. I think modular synths come alive when you can manipulate them physically, whether it's with your modular or with knobs or something like that. So the thing that really makes Plinky special for me, that isn't just a software emulation of it, is that it's really sensitive and really responsive to the way you move your hands. And then you throw on top of that the fact that every single parameter has a sample and hold random. You have pressure as a modulation source, a second envelope other than the ADSR, and then the 4 2 knobs and 2 jack only. Oh, I didn't even mention Lfos. Holy crap. Okay, watch this. So that's pretty boring. But if we go to, say, pitch, and we go to the A amount, dial in lots of pitch, hopefully that works. A also affects, I forgot that A also affects sensitivity. There you go. So but that's an LFO as well. So basically I didn't mention that A, B, X and Y, as well as having knobs and CV input, also have a fully functional LFO, which is these settings here. You have an offset, which is the amount to offset the CV voltage coming in so that you can basically fiddle it. You have the amount, so if I go and edit, you've got CV scale. So this is an attenuverter for the incoming voltage. You've then got LFO depth. So if I turn up the LFO depth, is it going to do it for me? Why is it not? Ah, is the scale down? The scale's down. That's actually a bug. Never mind, we'll turn it back up again. So CV scale, let's turn that back up to 100%. And now we should see. Ah, you bastard, what's going on? CV scale, 100%. LFO depth. Aha, there we go, right. LFO depth is now nice and... Yeah, and actually you can see the LFO at the top, so those 4 lines are LFOs. So I should hear... And there's like tons of LFO shapes. So this one is the frequency. And you've got shape, obviously triangle, sine, smooth random, stepped round, square waves, tons of stuff basically. So you can make bird noises. But yeah, so basically you have 4 LFOs as well as 4 CV inputs, as well as 2 knobs, but they're all kind of combined together into these 4 modulation sources. But modulation is really what makes Plinky your own. You can make patches that are quite varied with it because of that modulation. And then you can plug it into your rack and do cool stuff, or just use it on the go as a little USB-powered, headphone-compatible jam box. Right, I've been going for forever. I don't even know how long I've been going, an hour probably. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to sign off in case there's any emergencies in the... no emergencies in the chat. Thank you very much. And yeah, I hope to show you more Plinky in the future.